Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Going to take a bunch of your comments right here, right now, and answer you guys in depth because you're giving me some good in-depth answers to the questions I posed. And let's move along the conversation along those lines because this is what I want to be talking about for sure. So it's always kind of funny the way things work. You know, the most popular videos I put out are things like battery reviews and component reviews and component installation, which as enjoyable as that is, yeah, sometimes that gets a little boring. And then on the meantime, I cannot find a battery company at all to ship out here. And I've had, I kid you not, probably 50 battery offers in the past several months. Maybe not that many, maybe 25. Okay, 25 for sure. Oh yeah, we love your content, we watch your videos, we want to review on yours. They ad nauseum say exactly the same thing, and they've obviously not watched the full content of my videos and what we've been talking about for the past several years, because they're just interested in the commercial, of course, for their batteries. And I was always happy to do that in the very beginning because I was able to stack up some batteries and share the good information about a lot of the new stuff hitting the market. But yeah, for whatever reason, they will not ship here anymore. And I get asked a lot of people, by a lot of people out here on the island, hey, why no more battery reviews? Where are you getting those batteries? I can't get them. Well, they used to ship them to me for reviews without making them widely accessible to people out here, but sometimes they would, and I would always report back on that. But anyway, moving along to some more pressing issues right now, the fact that that's not happening so much now for me is I can't even show battery reviews even though they want to send them here, right? And I cannot get a straight answer from any of these companies on why all of a sudden they've shut the doorways to Hawaii, even just for some commercial value. So I don't know. I don't know the answer. I've never got an answer on that. So it's kind of forced me to move in a little bit different direction, because I'm not going to do just reviews on any cheap shit people want to send me, because a lot of it, and the overwhelming majority of it, is cheap stuff I would never even think about promoting in any kind of way. So, but the batteries were different, and now they've cut me off, and that's fine, because I'm ready to move on to some things that we've been talking about in my most previous videos, you know, getting ready for the coming storm. So I get shunned a little bit on YouTube sharing the things because I've changed the wording in a lot of my titles and stuff. It doesn't all say lithium iron phosphate, right? It's keywords to help distribution and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, you change gears a little bit, you get shunned a little bit. That's okay too. I don't care. So back to the comments. I put a video out earlier today about, are you digging in or bugging out for, and how are you preparing for the coming storm that we all feel is on the horizon? So I'm going to go down the comments because this is great. This is really what I'd like to be talking about anyway. I was always hesitant to do that a little bit, but for those of you that live as off-grid as I have in the past 30 years, you already have all of these concepts and practices well under your belt, as do I, because if you're going to live way out in rural areas, you'd already know how to take care of yourself in any kind of eventuality. Because why? Because number one, there's nobody else there to do it for you, and you don't rely upon anybody else to do that for you. So yeah. So to the comments. So I'm just going to kind of take them in random order as they're coming in. But Scott says, yeah, political or not, the world is supremely messed up right now. Doesn't matter what political side you're on, just need a brain and two eyes. And I couldn't agree more with any comment than right there, just that opening sentence. And he says he's been telling people to stock up on some rice and water and stuff to cook with. All stuff I've tried to slowly integrate into this channel over the years as well. You know, have some backups, have some redundancy to whatever you rely on for daily living in, you know, at least a healthy way, right? And then he elaborates a little bit more, says it doesn't cost that much, and if everything is good, worst case scenario is you've got some rice and water, right? I mean, yeah, that's kind of the way I look at having redundancy to things. Is if you got some backup to your backup, hopefully you never need it. Just like you've got a fire extinguisher, you hope you never need, right? And then I like this because he says at the end, he says also he would recommend me taking a little time off of typical videos and learn some basic survival skills. Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, I like doing this because I can really feel like I'm in the conversation with you guys. And it would take me a month of Sundays to type all of this back to you guys. So Cameron said, try looking at it through the lens of a different analogy. It's not a storm, it's a bushfire, smoldering in the undergrowth, a fire that won't move as a front but burst out everywhere at the same time. But unlike a fire, people are not indiscriminate. You've already seen how the authorities and your fellow islanders behaved in that recent fire. Not well. And it was not well. Get away from population centers as soon as you can. Maybe back to the mountains if you still have friends there, which I do. And it runs across my mind. Those islands will be a bad place to be. Yeah, yeah. We all wonder about that out here. We're a long way, from everything. And I'll just give you a real quick story that I thought of that was happening during the Y2K thing that was going to happen, right? Very rural area, very rural county. Only 3 real roads into the entire county, and our county sheriff said that if it looked like the cities were going to evacuate and head for the hills, right? That was always the narrative of like, well, if shit hits the fan, the cities are going to empty out and they're going to flood up into our rural area, right? So this idea that he had was like to dynamite some high property that would close off the road coming into the main thoroughfare to all the cities. And I guess what, we could all just be sitting up on high ground, picking them off as the zombies were trying to infiltrate the wilderness. And that idea didn't have any opposition. I will tell you that. There's no opposition. Everyone was like, yeah, that sounds good, right? Block the roads. Don't let the cities evacuate up into these areas. And then just as a little further context, I mean, to get up to my cabin, sometimes I wondered about getting up there in my own 4-wheel drive vehicle. So yeah, the fact that, the zombies weren't going to be coming up my road, but I understood the psychology. And on to another comment. This one's from Manny, and he says he's bugging in unless the house is burning down. Same here, food, water, and shelter. Yes, sir, Manny. And Dave said the only way he's leaving is in a pine box, and he gives credit to the late Anne Ramsey, who was Mama in Throw Mama from a Train, which was a great movie, by the way. And yeah, same here. I mean, we all feel that way, right? Over my dead body, right? Brush bum. He's got plenty of food and water and propane out the wazoo. Yeah, I've got a little of that stacked up as well. I've always got at least a year's worth of propane back here for what little I do run propane on now. I do have enough surplus electricity that I can do most things with that now, but propane's always a great backup as well. And the other thing that I like that he says is, seeds, plenty of seeds. That's something that's very popular out here. I've got a box full of seeds. Everyone's got a box full of seeds. And in times of not any kind of a crisis, we might be lacking on all the amounts of food we could be growing. Some people not. I know farmers out here that are supplying many people with food. And that we should all be doing to the best of our ability. I think it's good to have a little garden, no matter where you live. Grow a few things. And Bobby says that he's taking care of food, water, and shelter, and preparing a homestead. And they have a garden up, and they're collecting rainwater and building some quail cages. And I did entertain raising quail up in the mountains. I raised all the other birds, geese, ducks, and chickens for both, well, for food, all for food, and turkeys. What's Ray say? Ray says, I would say have a backup for your backup, and so on. That's his thoughts. And make sure you have others that would help you as you would them. And be safe and careful. Absolutely. And John said, if bad comes to worse, large metro areas be a bad place to be. Yeah, I don't know if there would be any good place, but I've always preferred to be away from the masses if people start losing their minds en masse. Watts in and watts out says, aside from the usual prep, protecting solar equipment or having an EMP-proof storage with a spare system. Redundancy to the redundancy. I like that. I have that. I've got that all taken care of and always have. And a lot of these things I would not have introduced in trying to teach people all of these, simple solar systems, how to be a little more self-sufficient. I didn't want to come off as people thinking, man, this guy's lost his mind, with all the prep that he's doing for things. But again, a lot of that just comes naturally when you live off grid. You do start thinking of like, okay, if my basic water delivery system breaks down, what am I going to do if I can't get out? And if the stores aren't open, you might be 50 miles away from the nearest store of that capacity to help you, which I have lived many years where that was the case, where it was that far to get maybe something I would have really needed. So I always had redundancy on the things that I knew I needed every single day. And John just said he could write a book about this, but the group watching this channel and others in similar content are all kind of on the same page in different degrees, and that he and I are on the same channel. And so I know a lot of you guys, we're all on the same page about a lot of this stuff. And yeah, it's coming off on tons of people's content right now, and I'm shifting content a little bit to be talking more about this. It might not be the most popular, but I do believe it's the most important. And like I said, I've always tried to hold off on some of that stuff, not try to scare people to being self-sufficient, or at least more self-sufficient in some degrees, in case shit does hit the fan and we have to call it just for that, because it possibly could. It's already splattering all over the place. And then John just finishes saying, the reason we do what we do is for good reason. We wonder, and that is our senses telling us, or in simpler terms, trust your gut. Yeah, aloha for that, John, and to all of you, because, yeah, I don't know where all of you live, all of your personal situations. I share, a great deal of mine out here and what it is to be doing these things and the things you think about wherever you're living. But we're cutting across the spectrum right now. It doesn't matter where people live. We're all having the same conversations, right? And Kenneth just said, keep some cash at home for emergency. That's a very good thing to do. And we always go a little beyond that with making sure you have some things for bartering in case, I've lived in a place where cash wasn't that plentiful, and it's just not a lot of times in extremely rural areas. Sometimes it is. I mean, you never know, right? But yeah, a little cash in case the banks have computer problems. That's all it takes, is for something to go offline. You can't go to your ATM and draw your money out. So, have a little cash on side to sustain you for a little while and not have to run out to the ATM, because that's something that could fail so easy. And what's your redundancy for that? Yeah, it's cash at home. And I like what Kenneth says also, is if you don't do some of these things, then don't complain later, right? I mean, the writing's on the wall for a lot of this stuff. It's like, I'm not saying panic. I certainly wouldn't say that, and I don't want people to panic, but get prepared, guys and gals, because, you need to be. And David said, preparing food, water, and shelter to mitigate unforeseen events is sound advice. I shudder to think how I would prepare to fend off the long arm of Big Brother. Yeah, I mean, we're all having these same conversations wherever we live, uh, regardless of anybody's political persuasion. We don't have to even get into that, right? It's just, these are the things we're all thinking about. Um, so, yeah. Keep the conversation going, you guys, because this is where a lot of this content's going to go for the foreseeable future. Because uh, for the ones who haven't caught on, that adding a battery and some solar panels could help you sustain some of your stuff in any eventuality. You know, I've talked about that a lot in the past few years. We're going to get on to some more content in different ways that you need to be getting prepared for the times that we live in. It's not trying to amp anybody up. I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just trying to help you guys get ready. And by bouncing all of these ideas off of each other, I mean, I never know any one thing I might show or say on this channel that might resonate with somebody out there. I just never know. But your comments are what help steer me in the right direction in the past and going forward too. So aloha, everybody. I'm going to do some more like this where I can come back and talk to you guys, read your comments. They're very thoughtful, well thought out comments. There's plenty of others I could go into, but we'll do this kind of a thing where we can all get each other's feedback about what you're doing, your neck of the woods. That's going to help us. You know, it's like ham radio days. Hey, what's happening out there? And which I recommend you have at least a way to monitor that as well. And I always have and always will, because, you know, communications can be fragile, and one of our last lines of communication around the world are you hams out there. Relied on you heavily over the years and probably will for forever. So yeah, let's keep the conversation alive, keep talking, keep helping each other out, because we got to get through everything that's coming. Aloha, have a great evening. To be continued.